Welcome to the very first DTF Film Session. I'm Max Dean here with our lead draft analyst, draft content director, Nick Merriam, and we are here to talk about Bryce Young in our first ever show. So I'm very excited for this. Nick, how you doing today, man?
Doing well. Excited to talk about a player that we've been hyping up on different platforms for a while here.
So we're going to go through about 5 clips of Bryce Young's game. We're going to let Nick break him down, talk a little bit about his measurables, how he plays. And this is our first one. So if you like it, let us know. Throw us a like. You can hit subscribe because we're going to be doing this throughout the entire offseason and then in other facets going forward as well. And if there's something that you're curious about that you want us to include in future versions of this video, you can let us know about that as well. But let's get into it. So our first ever player, Bryce Young, quarterback from Alabama, talked about by a lot of people as the potential first overall pick because of the refinement of his game, but a lot of people are criticizing his size, and particularly, former GMs, guys that have been in, the GM chairs or scouting chairs going back years, especially back then. Height and stature was really prized at the quarterback position for a few reasons: to be able to see over the line, to have big enough arm angles, etc. But why is it that you love Bryce Young as much as you do?
Well, I think the thing we forget about the measurables of quarterbacks is that, and I think we're a little off on the list that he's actually at 6 foot flat right now in Alabama, but it's not going to matter because he's going to come in at like 5'10", and the 194. I actually for a while thought that he might be in the 180s. I actually do think he's probably going to be in the low 190s, maybe even upper 190s, just looking at kind of like the truckiness of his lower body, especially like his thighs. Like I think he is relatively well built. But what we see now with these players is they can all add weight. Like it's not hard for them to do that. Maybe back in the past, when weightlifting, people have to remember, like in the 1980s and early 1990s, there's an offensive line for Washington called the Hogs. And they're called the Hogs because they were huge, right? And across the line, they were like 290, 270, 250, 270, 290, right? Like that was a huge offensive line in the early 90s. The way weightlifting has transformed the sport is now everyone's bigger, everyone's faster, everyone's more athletic. Bryce Young should be able to add minimally 10 pounds. I think probably more by year 2. He'll probably play around 210. And I wouldn't be overly concerned about that. Obviously, it might be difficult for him to do that quickly, but and maybe it'll change the way he can move. But if the worry for me is more about the frame than it is about the height, because we've seen the game moving away where quarterback improvisation, ability to find lanes to see through has increased. And that's not even just like recently when we've seen the Mayfields and the Breezes and the Wilsons of the world and Kyler Murrays of the world be able to play better. I think it's overall, it really, you look back at around that time period that we talk about with the Hogs, and there was kind of this idea of a 6'5" statue quarterback. All these quarterbacks that were getting drafted were like giants in the pocket. But now with mobility, I think the average quarterback is more 6'2" than 6'5", and like that's tall enough now. And it used to be that you kind of had to be at least like Brady's height was what you wanted to be to get drafted. And I believe he's 6'4". Even that like is now thought of as like a giant quarterback, right? So it's not just that we've seen an increase in shorter quarterbacks; it's that the data points have overall moved lower on the spectrum of height that is the quarterback position. And I think, he's going to come in at 5'10", and people are going to make a lot about it. But I think the way he plays can work around that in more ways than one.
Yeah, I think, optimally, I don't think anybody would still say, I don't think anybody would say that, 6'4", 6'5" is not the ideal. But I think the way that people are looking for mobility, finding a quarterback who's 6'4", 6'3" even, who's particularly mobile, it's pretty challenging, right? It's what makes guys like Josh Allen and Trevor Lawrence, Andrew Luck back in the day, Justin Herbert, and Cam Newton's so special. If you have those athletic traits and that size, then you're particularly dangerous. But we're seeing almost none of the guys who come in and don't move very well at 6'4", 6'5", and actually play. We're seeing more of the guys who are like 6'1", 6'2", even, who can move, become priorities. So if you're going to surrender one, I think people are more, at this point, willing to surrender the size than they are the mobility. All right. So do you have anything else that you'd like to talk about with his game before we actually jump into the clips, or what you thinking?
Yeah, just that I think the baseline for quarterback play is what it's been forever, which is if you don't have accuracy, decision making, and ability to, run an NFL offense, you're not going to make it in the NFL. And a lot of guys, that third one, ability to run an NFL offense, comes when they get to the NFL. There's a big jump from college to the NFL for a lot of guys, bigger, even more for some, like the Trey Lances of the world. But I think Bryce Young has that baseline, and there are guys in this draft that don't, like Will Levis and Anthony Richardson, but the tools are kind of a bonus where if they do eventually get that learning curve to a point where they can understand and improve their accuracy, which really we've only seen Josh Allen do. So accuracy for them is like a little more of a question mark. It's probably my number one trait for quarterbacks is accuracy, and I think it is for a lot of people. Then you have that bonus on top of that. So that's kind of the trade-off is like, can you develop this guy to work in an NFL offense? And then if you can, like his ceiling is so much higher because of those extra tools. But if you're Bryce Young and your tools aren't as great, well, guess what? Your baseline is high enough that we can kind of, I don't want to say guarantee, but be pretty confident that he's going to at least play well in the NFL.
All right. So, you know that I value that very much as well. I mean, the time that it takes to get a quarterback to where he needs to be competitive, there is no baseline for that. We don't you can't guarantee that with anybody. And the value of the rookie contract is so high that even if you are paying the salary of a first overall pick, if that is a quarterback who's ready to play right now, that makes a massive difference for how quickly you can be competitive and how long that window of having that cheaper player is. So keeping that in mind, let's take a look at some of his film here, and you're going to walk us through it.
All right, so this first play is just going to quickly show his quick recognition. This is going to be a middle field coverage look, even though I know the safety's a little bit over. It looks like it's open. He's going to drift a little bit to the center. It's going to be cover one, right? And it's going to be a quick cover one where the linebackers drop out. So the recognition here is watching the corner drift in his technique to find that man coverage. You'll see Bryce peek to his left and find that. And then because the linebackers are drifting, just the ability to get that ball to the running back very quickly allows for a big gain here because he's able to recognize it's cover one. Getting that space from the linebackers drifting to the sticks allows this play to gain a lot of yards. Obviously, a very talented player in Jahmyr Gibbs out of the backfield. But this is the type of thing that I think quarterbacks struggle with in college, is the ability to kind of come off of a read from one side, understand the coverage, and then know where the ball needs to get on the other side of the field. You hear a lot of people talk about this, but in this particular case, it's a very simple play. Young is very good at these simple reads and making what really is some more complex for college quarterbacks look easy. This is like a 40-yard gain. So this is the bonus of having a guy who is NFL quote unquote ready.
Right. So wide open pocket to be sure, but you can see here where the running back is drifting out to the right flat. If he waits on this, if he's any more behind, that gives the linebacker a lot of time to close on what could be a potentially big play. The faster the ball gets there, the more time that Gibbs has to run in space. So you'll see that right now. It's there, and then he can make the move. He basically destroys the angle, and then that's it.
And maybe not quite a 40-yard game. You don't think of another play that's later, but still, look, the quick peek left, the corner drifts in. You can kind of see that at the top of the screen. It's very quick. It happens, but the difference between cover 3 and a cover 1 coverage here, which is going to determine where you go with the ball, is just the fact that corner drifts inward. And it's very subtle at this point in the game because they don't really know what Texas is running. They end up running a lot of cover 4, but that giveaway with the linebackers drifting backwards lets you know you have that check down option.
All right. Watch it one more time.
And it should be noted that this offensive line was very good this year. He had an excellent pocket to operate from. We're going to show kind of what he does when the pocket does break down later on, because it's also an important skill. But I think as a baseline, it's one thing I'm interested in with this game going forward is what will it look like when the pocket's a little more messy in the NFL?
Yeah, you will never see a pocket cleaner than that.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But yes. But everything's synced up with timing as well with the feed, and there's like no hitch anything there.
Yes, his feet timed up. The footwork's a little. He's going to have to work on that, but he kind of freelances it a little bit. But in terms of syncing up to his throw, he does a good job. So here we're going to see some pocket presence. Again, this is a fantastic pocket, but his ability to kind of manipulate and feel makes this play. So Texas runs a ton of cover 4 in this game, and Alabama just for some reason as a play calling unit just cannot dial up cover 4 beaters in this game. It just does not happen. It was extremely frustrating to watch. So no one's open. But just this is, again, very simple play that he makes, a very complex play that he makes look simple, that a lot of NFL players and even like a lot of early college players going to the NFL and almost every college player struggles with is just, you have a good pocket here, right? So he's going to get pressured eventually because no one's open. And you see so many quarterbacks drift out of the pocket. And for him, his natural tendency is to step up. And just that in itself allows him to pick up this. I believe this is a 3rd and 7, a first down and a long scramble here. And it's just this small thing you can play it. It's just very, very simple. It's like, don't drift out of the pocket, out of the backside of the pocket. Step up, find the space, keep your eyes down the field, get those yards. Because you see so many quarterbacks, even like, there's one thing I'm very concerned about Sam Howell seeing early on with his first game in Washington. Drift out of the pocket to the right here because you see that space to the right, right? Like you can extend the play and keep your eyes
100%.
downfield. But that lane right there, it's smaller. A lot of quarterbacks miss it. It's really not that small. It's pretty like that's a big lane in the NFL. But in college, for an underdeveloped quarterback, that's a tough one to feel comfortable with. But for Bryce, it's become very easy for him, and this is something he does consistently.
Right. So if you're getting pressured from your blind side here, and you feel that a lot of quarterbacks, like you said, will sprint to the right here and look to throw on the move going this way because it does feel more natural. But the problem is that a lot of times your right tackle here isn't going to feel you, and that end is going to be able to just roll off that and just sack you or chase you down before you make the throw. But if you have this nice pocket here, you can step up into, and then if that closes, then you can slip right out that lane to the left. So basically, that's what we're talking about here.
I should say again, this is a young quarterback thing, right? Like I think a lot of NFL starters, longtime starters, do this pretty well. There are your like weird examples like Dak. Well, even Dak Prescott's gotten pretty good at it, but Kirk Cousins struggled forever to step up in pockets. It's part of that development curve that is tough for younger quarterbacks to get to, and this baseline is impressive at least. All right, so play 3. We're going to talk about adjustments to the line of scrimmage because this is something that I think really sits him ahead of almost any quarterback in this draft class. Is his ability to recognize blitzes and make protection changes at the line of scrimmage. And look, I haven't studied LSU's defense a whole lot. They run a lot of like weird cover 3 invert type things, which is not even like really a thing. So they did a lot of strange stuff in this game defensively. And credit to them, this was a difficult game for Bryce Young. He didn't play excellent, but I will say one thing he was excellent at, and I don't know how I recognized it because I'm not a genius, but he kept finding out where these blitzes were coming from. And here you're going to see the offensive line adjust protection to the right, but it's going to be effectively a full 6-man blitz from LSU. So they're going to be down a man. Now, what's strange about this, though, is when you blitz 6 out of too high, you either have 2 possibilities. One, either they stay too high and you've just left a wide receiver open because you're blitzing 6 men, you've brought a corner down, and one of these receivers is either going to be open hot. Or the second possibility, a safety is going to reduce down and cover the running back out of the backfield. And then what that means is either he's going to leave space for a receiver to run into, or he's going to be slow getting down to a point where that running back is just going to have a leverage advantage and you're going to make that throw. In this case, the safety does in fact reduce down. So you can see here, he's going to just make a change to the line of scrimmage. He has the protection. This ball is still going to have to be out quick because they don't keep the running back in, right? They're down 6v5. And that safety comes down to cover the running back. See, you have 2 people on that receiver at the bottom of the screen. It's man, right? It's a blitz. Blitz means man coverage. They're not both covering that receiver. One of them has the running back. So on this angle route from the running back, as you see, I don't remember if it's Gibbs. It might be a different guy. Cuts inwards. Young is going to wait for that running back to gain kind of an advantage here in terms of the speed. He might be able to get the ball out a little bit quicker in the NFL or need to. But because of the safety crashing down and having all his momentum coming in, this is an easy big pickup.
That's actually not a bad route either because
yeah,
he waits until the safety's closing a little bit closer than he probably should, and then he's able to cut it inwards.
But it's just these simple pre-snap things. Like, you just make eliminations on a scrimmage of what this can be. And again, you see a lot of quarterbacks deal with half-field reads. A lot of quarterbacks deal with RPOs, things that don't really allow them to freelance this ability. You see the slide protection to the right, leaves the guy open left, but because it's the short side of the field, you have a little more time because they have to adjust over to blitz to that sideline because all the defense is over to the far side because that's where the strength of the field is. Just wait for him to get open. It's man-to-man. Safety's already from not a good position in terms of leverage. Easy big pickup. And then we're going to see this again, and it's a similar play, like extremely similar. Going to make a check at the line of scrimmage because there's a blitz. LSU is showing kind of a 3 safety look, which you only really see in college, but still it's something to know about. Again, it's going to be a weird cover 1 where one of the safeties rotates over. But the ability to adjust to the blitz and know that it's coming is impressive. Like, you don't see college players make these pre-snap reads and adjustments. And again, he's just going to get the ball out to the running back, to the open receiver from a point of leverage because you know where that safety is adjusting downwards, the way LSU is rotating their safeties to get into cover 1. If this is too high, it's a little bit of a different read. They're just playing 2-man and keeping it open. But, I don't remember if they keep the tight end in here or not. But again, this is, I believe, a slide. It's not even a slide. He just needs a note to the corners blitzing. You get the running back out, quick completion. You see this over and over again from Bryce, and it was even more in the Tennessee game. This is like hard stuff. Like, I don't know how to emphasize it besides that, like the simplicity of how a lot of these quarterbacks operate in college, the ability at the line of scrimmage, like down in and down out, to eliminate these outcomes in your mind and get to that read is difficult, and it preps you for the NFL. All right, so the last play we're going to look at here, I don't have a main overlay note of this actually, so I'm going to this is pocket manipulation, right? Like, this is the main thing here. And again, it's a blitz, and he knows it's coming. But the difference here with this blitz is it's going to be like almost cover 0. It's like cover 0, but they leave a safety back there kind of just floating because it stays open field. But really, in technical terms, it would be a cover 1 where one safety picks up the strong side receiver here. They're down a man in the blitz, so he has to buy time on himself, get the ball out to the open receiver, or he's going to have to scramble. And so this is just, again, the pocket manipulation here is elite. Like, he is dead to rights. This is excellent coverage in terms of just man-to-man. You have an extra safety drifting there. I don't really, I guess it is technically middle field coverage because they're on the hash, so maybe I'm wrong about that. But it looks a little awkward because of how wide the college hashes are. Like, dead to rights. Like, you're down a man. Multiple LSU players get a chance to tackle him, but this is just his ability to feel the pocket, step up through it. Again, most quarterbacks do not step up through that pocket in college. And then because it's man, if he scrambles, like, there's no one that has him. Like, he's got that first down. LSU knows that. Because he buys this time, he creates this kind of shifting upwards in the defensive backs and allows his receivers to get open downfield. Most quarterbacks in college are going to have a really hard time doing what he did here in terms of pocket manipulation, stepping up through it and getting to space and allowing themselves to scramble. But now add the element of keeping your eyes down the field and finding the open receiver to complete a touchdown pass. That's not only an extra step, but it's like 2 extra steps above most quarterbacks in college.
Especially once you fight through contact as a quarterback, almost nobody is still looking to throw at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Like, once you feel contact, you're usually head down going, trying to get to the sideline, whatever the case is. But he sees here on the bottom right that he's got 2 receivers that are drifting past coverage because the entire DB unit's like, okay, we have a sack. So once he sees that, that's a beautiful throw on the run as well.
It's like the third level of chess, right? You're like, okay, it's a man, it's a blitz. Like, I need to avoid the sack. They know they're trying to blitz me. Okay, I've avoided the sack. Now they know I'm going to try a scramble. Okay, that means now I should throw it. And it's just like, these decisions are being made on the fly very quickly, and they're calculated. This is not just like him feeling out the game. Like, these are very, very calculated, like, mental decisions based on the flow of the play itself. And it's different. And it's being overlooked maybe a little bit because of how much he improvises. I think a lot of people see an improvisational quarterback and just like, oh, he's just freelancing out there. And there are definitely guys that do that. But I think in Young's case, like if you really delve into the tape and just look at how these plays are working, how often teams blitz him, how often he has to adjust to it, it's very much like detailed decisions within the play.
Mm-hmm. All right. That was our first ever DTF scouting session, episode 1, Bryce Young, quarterback from Alabama. I had fun. We're going to do a lot more of this. We're going to do some quarterbacks. Nick, want to give a little preview of who you want to hit next?
Yeah, I think we're going
Look
to
forward
hit.
to.
I think we're going to actually hit Jalen Carter next. We're just going to kind of go through the consensus. I don't want to stick with just quarterbacks like throughout the first like few episodes. We'll try and spread it out, do different guys. Kyron's going to be doing the O-line dudes, but Jalen Carter obviously been a highly touted defensive line prospect, and maybe the best like player just on his own in this draft. So that'll be fun to do.
All right, cool. You can find me at TheMaxDean on Twitter. You can find Nick at Nick with Sports. You can find Defiant Takes Football at Defiant Takes. Check out the site. Nick has his first mock draft of the offseason posted. He has his Senior Bowl, all Senior Bowl team for 2023 posted, and we're going to have lots more coming to you. Thanks for watching, and remember to subscribe.